Okay, welcome back, everyone. I'm going to get started for this afternoon. Nice to see all of you guys. Welcome back. I'm going to help you guys to understand breathing mindfulness meditation. I'm going to teach you all the ins and outs of this, and then we're going to actually do a session together because it's really helpful now that you understand the Eightfold Path, that you'll understand where this fits in, and you can understand the bigger picture of why you're meditating and what you're actually doing during your meditation. So just like always, you guys are always welcome to ask questions. So I'm going to pause a few times and see what questions you guys have. So here, let's just start with some meditation basics. Some meditation basics are just, let's understand the definition of meditation. Your definition may or may not match to what I'm sharing here, but whenever I say meditation, this is what I'm referring to. This is a technique to actively train the mind during dedicated, independent, purposeful training sessions to eliminate unwholesome qualities of the mind and or cultivate wholesome qualities of the mind in the positions of seated, lying, standing, and walking. Okay, so it's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session. You're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. And you're in the seated, lying, standing, or walking position. These are the 4 positions that the Buddha taught. And during this course, you're going to actually learn all 4 of them. It's important to understand what meditation is not, because sometimes, just like mindfulness, people have applied other meanings to it. Sometimes people say, I'm going to go exercise and do some meditation, or I'm going to go walk the dog and meditate, or I'm going to go for a drive and meditate. It's important that you don't see these things as meditation, because when you hear me say that I recommend 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more, if you just went and walked the dog for 2 or 3 times a day for 30 minutes or more, you're not going to be able to get to meditation that way. So meditation is this dedicated, active, purposeful training session. And while these things may be something that you decide to do, they may be helpful for your life, beneficial in your life, it's just important that you don't see them as meditation. In terms of getting to the point where you're developing a meditation practice, you need to have a meditation teacher. You wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment by yourself without the help of teachers or guides. There's only one unique type of individual that can actually do that, and that's a Buddha. And that person is very rare in the world. The last one that the world is currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. So you're going to need teachers to help you. And you can't ask questions to a book. I'm going to give you an example of this so that you understand how important it is to have a teacher. And whether you consider me to be your teacher or not is up to you. If you would like to reach out and get help from me, I'm more than pleased to help you. I don't charge anything to be able to help you. It's always available for you at no cost. But if it's not me, be sure you have some kind of teacher, because there's an individual who contacted me several years ago. They were a practicing physician. They were a doctor in their home country, and they were trying to get to enlightenment on their own. They were watching YouTube videos, reading books, training their mind. And for about 2 years, they were doing these things. And they worked themselves into a situation where they were having obsessive thoughts. They were sleeping 23 hours a day. They were having suicidal thoughts. They couldn't go to work any longer. Their relationship with their fiance was falling apart. Now, I don't suggest any of this is actually going to happen for any of you, because you understand that you need to have a teacher. This individual eventually realized that he needed a teacher, and in one way or another, he reached out. He found me on the internet. He helped me understand what was going on in his situation. And I tried to help him from being here, and he was outside of Thailand, but eventually his case was so significant, I invited him to come to Thailand, and I said, I really need to help you here. I can't help you over the internet. So he eventually ended up coming here. He spent a little bit of time here, and he ultimately went back to his home country, and everything got sorted out just fine. Right now, he's back practicing medicine. He's a physician. He's not sleeping 23 hours a day. He doesn't have suicidal thoughts. All that stuff is gone. But for about 4 to 6 years, his life was a wreck. It was miserable. He was having all kinds of difficulties and all kinds of trouble. But again, I don't suspect this will ever happen to you, because you understand it's important to have a teacher. Getting to enlightenment is not like baking a cake. You know, you can pull up a YouTube video and see how to bake a cake, but you can't do that with enlightenment. Just like you have a teacher to learn how to read, write, and speak English, and any other aspect of your life where you've developed a certain skill, you're going to need that with this path. You're going to need teachers and guides. But it's you that's doing the work. A teacher is essentially a tour guide pointing out the way and helping you to be able to see how to get to enlightenment, but it's you that's doing the individual work. So you don't have to contact me at any particular time. You don't have to contact a teacher any particular time, but just have somebody that you can reach out to. Because sometimes when you're meditating, you're going to have situations that come up, like you feel like your hands are like stones, or some people talk about their head feeling like an elephant, or things like this. You're going to have these things come up. And when you do, you're going to need to reach out to a teacher and say, hey, I'm experiencing this during my meditation. What do you think? And what you might get back from your teacher is, that's normal, just keep going. And if that's what you get, you can have some reassurance and some confidence. But if you don't have a teacher to reach out to, you won't be able to get that. So you don't have to contact me in any particular schedule. Just know now and for the rest of your life, if you ever need help, you're always welcome to reach out to me, and I'll be right there to help you. Okay. And then in terms of positions, there's 4 positions to meditate in: seated, lying, standing, and walking. I'm going to teach you all of these 4 positions as part of this course. And now I'm going to share with you what these are. And then tomorrow I'm going to teach you walking meditation. What you do with the seated, lying, and standing position with your mind is exactly the same, no matter what position you're in. You're just changing your position in order to help the comfort of the body, essentially. So I'll share with you how I use these positions, and then you don't believe me. You don't just follow me. You learn what I'm sharing with you, but then you test it out for yourself and see what works for you and what may or may not work for you. So the way that I use these is the seated position is like the primary position. That's like the go-to position. That's the one that most people learn when they're first starting with meditation. And a lot of people meditate in the seated position. So that's sitting on the floor, in a chair, on a bench, on a sofa or wheelchair. There's many different ways that you can sit. So there isn't just one fixed way to sit. It's important that the body's comfortable, and you can sit however you're comfortable. So that's like the primary position. Well, when you're in the seated position, sometimes you can notice that the body has aches and pains. And when you experience this, that's where the lying position comes in. You can either switch to a lying position, or you can just start in lying position if you like, where you lay flat on the floor with your face up and your arms are out to the side. This is going to relax all the muscles in the body and help you to be able to meditate. Because if you're experiencing pain in the body, it's going to detract you from meditating. You need to cultivate wholesome qualities and eliminate unwholesome qualities. But if all your mind is experiencing is pain, 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 this is going to detract from that. So you would like to switch from a seated to a lying, and that'll help you to get rid of the pain. But when you're in the seated or the lying position, particularly the lying position, you can have a tendency to fall asleep. And if you're noticing that, that's where the standing position and the walking position comes in. That you can stand up with your hands in front of you, to the sides or behind you, and you do the same exact thing with the mind that I'm going to teach you, but the body's just in a different position. So this is helpful if you're noticing that the mind's having a tendency to fall asleep. You can also use it in other situations too. There's been times where I've been like at a bus stop waiting for a bus, and I know that the bus isn't going to be there for 15, 20 minutes or maybe even 5 minutes, and I'll just stand there and do some meditation because there's nowhere to sit down. Or I've been in lines before, like waiting for a driver's license or at some government office to fill out a form, and this line only moves every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, and while I'm standing in line, I'll just close my eyes and do a little bit of meditation. I don't consider it one of my 2 to 3 meditations per day, but it's like a little touch-up meditation. Get a little bit of meditation in. So you could use it that way as well. Then there's the walking position. This is what I'm going to teach you tomorrow. It's very intentional walking. It's a very specific type of meditation. It's helpful if you're noticing your mind's falling asleep, but it's also really helpful if your mind's overactive. If you have a lot of energy in your mind and the last thing you're thinking about is being still somewhere and you can't even imagine being still, the walking position is really helpful because the body can move and you can still meditate. But it's very intentional. Excuse me, is very intentional walking. It's not like just walking to 7-Eleven. You'll see tomorrow, we're going to do it in here. So if you're here tomorrow, you'll be able to see how I teach you guys that. So these are the 4 positions of meditation: seated, lying, standing, and walking. Do you guys have any questions on the basics of meditation? No? Okay. Oh, let me switch over to visual aids for the folks online. There we go. Sorry about that for those of you guys on Facebook or YouTube. All right. So here, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze again. Wow, some impermanence. The body can't be permanently healthy. Okay, so here, starting and conducting a meditation session, okay? It's important to understand that the mind is the boss and the body is the employee. What I mean by that is in order to train your mind, you need to go through the employee. You need to go through the body to get to the boss in order to train the mind. You can't just go straight to the mind. So if the employee is painful, it's not going to take you to go see the boss. But if it's luxurious, it's not going to take you to go see the boss either. So you like the body to be in the middle where it's comfortable, where it's not painful, but it's not luxurious. Because if the body's luxurious, you have a tendency to fall asleep. But if it's really painful, it's going to be hard for you to meditate. So you like to be in a position where the body's comfortable, and then you can actually train the mind and access the mind. So if you remember, the mind is the boss, the body's the employee, it'll help you to understand to go through the body in order to get to the mind, to the boss. Right now, the body is telling the mind, like, hey, I want to sneeze. So the Buddha, when he's teaching about meditation, he says, set up mindfulness in front of you before you start meditating. These are actually the words of the Buddha. If you see his words about meditation, he gives you step-by-step instructions of how to meditate. And he talks about setting up mindfulness in front of you. Well, now you know what mindfulness is. It means awareness of mind. Right? Awareness of mind. So what he's teaching you is to develop some awareness of mind before you enter into meditation. Don't just plop down into meditation and start meditating, because you're not going to get the benefit that you really need. So you'd like to kind of bring some awareness to the mind. And that's where chanting comes in. Chanting isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used it as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, they would recite his teachings in order to commit them to their memory. Where now we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation, setting up mindfulness in front of you before you start meditating, bringing some awareness of mind and awareness of breath. So you might decide to use chanting, or you could use something else if you have something else that you can bring some awareness of mind. If you notice, on the Eightfold Path, there's no such thing as right chanting, right? Because it's not one of the core aspects of the path. So nowadays, you could actually get to enlightenment without even chanting, but it is a beneficial practice. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, you needed to chant in order to get to enlightenment. In terms of your time, frequency, and schedule of meditation, is it possible to meditate at exactly the same time every day? Is it possible for you to do that? Some of you are shaking your heads no. Why not? Do you know why? Because of the universal truth of impermanence. It tells you right there that you can meditate at the same time every day, because that would be permanence. So it's good to have anchor points like morning, midday, and evening, and you know you're meditating at those times. But if you set a fixed time for yourself at like 8 a.m., you're going to meditate every day at 8 a.m., I can tell you right now, you're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen, because of the universal truth of impermanence. There was times where I was sitting in meditation, meditating, and my son walks into my room and he's like, Dad, I need you to take me to school. And I was like, huh? I thought your mom was going to take you to school today. He's like, yeah, me too. She's gone. I don't even know where she's at. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to take you to school today, right? So if I was attached to meditation and I was fixed and I was craving to meditate at exactly the same time every day, I'd be frustrated or agitated. But it's like, okay, well, get up, go take you to school, do what you need to do, and then when I come home, I'll meditate then, right? So you're not going to be able to meditate at exactly the same time. It's not possible. But if you have these anchor points where like morning and evening, you have a meditation, and then in the middle of the day, you might try to get one in, that's what's going to help you to be able to get to enlightenment. The Buddha meditated 3 times a day. And if anybody ever tells you that you need to meditate at exactly the same time every day, you know right away that that's not true. Because there's some people that will tell you that you need to meditate at 3:30 a.m. every day. I can assure you that there's nothing special happening at 3:30 a.m. in the morning that's going to make your meditation any better than if you did it at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or any other time, right? So you can meditate at any time that you like. There's no fixed time, because that's permanence. So anybody that's talking about those kinds of things, you can see that they haven't understood the universal truth of impermanence, the very first teaching of the Buddha, so they couldn't actually be experiencing enlightenment, right? So you meditate wherever you like. And And if we know about the Buddha, we know he got to enlightenment, and there was no such thing as a clock or a watch during his lifetime. That technology hadn't even been invented yet. So if you have to meditate at exactly 3:30 a.m. every day to get to enlightenment, how did the Buddha do that? Because he didn't even have a watch. He didn't have a clock, right? So you can see that these things are untrue just by understanding the world around you. So if you're meditating morning and evening, you kind of have these anchor points, and then maybe in the middle of the day you can get one in here or there. That's what's going to get you to enlightenment. If you start meditating once a day, okay, that's a good place to start, but that's not going to get you to enlightenment. You're going to need to at least do 2 per day. So if you can, like I mentioned, if it's a matter of one meditation for 30 minutes or 2 for 15, go for the 2 for 15. The frequency is more important than the duration. So go for your 2 for 15, like 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, and then gradually expand that to be wider and wider as you go throughout your weeks and months and years. And that's what'll get you to enlightenment. So that's your time, frequency, and schedule. Some people actually set an alarm for their meditation. I don't suggest you do this if you don't have to, because if you set an alarm, there's 2 things that might happen. You're probably going to be in meditation thinking, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? This is the mind craving, right? And you're trying to get rid of craving, but your mind's going to sit in meditation wondering, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Or you're going to be deep in meditation, getting all kinds of benefits. Oh, man, I shouldn't have set that alarm. If you need an alarm, like say you're on your way to work and you only have 20 minutes to meditate, okay, use an alarm. But in the evenings or on the weekends, you don't need an alarm, go for it. Do it without an alarm. You're going to find that you get much more benefit. The way that you keep track of your meditation is look at your time beforehand, 9 a.m. Then you meditate. And then when you're done, you look at your clock, 9:15. Okay, I'm at 15 minutes. I need to expand this a little bit more. So just once a week, check in and see where you're at with your meditation. I even do this now today, because sometimes 5 minutes of meditation can seem like an hour, but sometimes an hour meditation can seem like 5 minutes. So you like to kind of check in every once in a while and see, and that's the best way to do it. If you notice sleepiness during meditation, you have 2 options. One is you could switch positions, right? We talked about that. You could switch from a seated or a lying over to a standing or a walking. That's one thing you could do. Or the other thing you could do, just get some sleep. Because what you're going to notice is as you start training your mind's going to have more of a tendency to be interested in sleeping. Because right now you might be sleeping, but you might not be getting very good quality sleep. When your mind starts performing more optimally through meditation, you might notice that it has a more tendency to sleep. You might go through like a 3-month, 6-month, or even 1 year little hump where your mind starts wanting to sleep more frequently. But what you'll notice is your sleep's going to get deeper, and you're going to get a better quality sleep. So there were times where I started meditating. I was maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes into it. I was getting really sleepy, and I just got some sleep. Just went to sleep, got some sleep, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long, woke up and then started meditating afterwards. So feel free to just sleep. If that's what your mind needs, give it the sleep that it needs, right? So those are some options for you. You might notice physical sensations during your meditation. This is like if you're meditating and you feel like a little itch here or there. These kinds of things come up while you're meditating. What I suggest you do is try not to itch it. Right? Because that's going to give you discipline of the mind. Because what your mind's wanting permanent comfort of the body. And when you experience that itch, your mind wants to get that permanent comfort, and it's going to try to scratch that itch. But then when you do that one, then there's going to be another one over here and another one over here and another one over here. They're going to be all over the place. So if you can go like 5 seconds, 10 seconds without itching, and then you just have this strong urge, you just have to itch, okay, itch it. But then next time, try to make it 12 or 15 or 20 seconds and try to keep expanding it longer and longer until eventually you can see the whole life cycle of that itch, that it's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away because it's impermanent, right? So try to go an entire life cycle where you don't have to itch. And this is going to help you be able to train your mind and have discipline of your mind. And it's also going to help you develop the 4 foundations of mindfulness as well. You might notice visual stimulation during your meditations. What I mean by this is some people see colors like white and green and purple and yellow, or you might have vivid images of certain memories and things like that, either from this life or previous lives. If you have these kinds of things, it's completely normal. I'll explain to you what it is, because sometimes people call me up or contact me and they're like, David, I saw this purple and green colors in my meditation. What does that mean? Does my boyfriend or girlfriend's going to come back to me? Is that what that means? And I was like, no, that's not what that means. Or I saw green in my meditation. Does that mean I'm going to get rich? What does that mean? Okay, I'll explain to you guys what this means, okay? What's happening is when you are training your mind, you're purifying your mind. This is a non-physical thing. Your brain is something completely different than the mind. These are two separate things. The brain is the physical organ. Your sight is happening inside the brain. So when your eyes are closed, you can actually still see things because all your eye is doing is bringing in light. The sight is occurring inside the brain, right? So when you're training your mind, it has an effect on the brain. There's doctors and researchers and scientists that are showing this with MRIs and CAT scans. They're showing the physical structures of the brain are actually changing. You might actually even hear this while you're meditating. I used to walk around with a lot of pressure on my skull. I used to get migraine headaches about 3 times a week, sometimes even vomiting. I used to get migraine headaches so much. After training my mind, I don't experience that anymore. But I would hear inside the skull, I would hear like... And by the time I trained my mind, all that pressure was gone, all the migraine headaches were gone, all that stuff was gone. But during this process of change where you're training your mind and your brain, the physical structures of your brain are actually changing, you might actually see colors. It's going to produce different colors, and it's temporary. It might happen for 6 months or a year or so, but then eventually it won't happen anymore because it's impermanent. So even though it's somewhat pleasurable to see these things, it's important you don't cling to it because they are impermanent. But this is completely normal. It has no other meaning other than the fact that you're meditating well and keep on going. You're headed in the right direction. The physical structures of the brain are changing, and this is really helpful for you because the doctors and researchers are showing that these are very beneficial changes that are happening to the brain for people who are meditating. So you might notice those things. Sometimes people are taught to meditate with external stimulus. What I mean by this is like candles or beads or music or incense or certain things like this, right? People kind of been taught to meditate this way. If possible, I suggest you strip all of those things out of your meditation. You're not going to be able to do it quick or instantaneously, but as long as you're meditating with all those kinds of things, your mind is just holding on to it and it's going to get attached to it. So if you're meditating with a certain phone app or a certain candle, it means that you can't meditate anywhere, anytime. You would like to get to the point where you can meditate anywhere, anytime. Whereas if you have this certain candle that you would only meditate if you have this candle. When you're on a 3-day hiking tour in the mountains of Chiang Mai, you can't meditate because you don't have your special candle with you. Or say you're walking through a park and it's like a really beautiful park, a really beautiful day, and you're like, I'd like to sit down and meditate. I don't have my candle with me. I can't, right? Your mind's attached to this candle. You can only meditate when you have this candle. So there's only 3 things that you actually need to meditate. And you'll have these 3 things with you all the time until you actually die. All you need is the body, the mind, and the breath. Those are the only 3 things that you need. The body, the mind, and the breath. So right now, if you're meditating with music or candles or things like this or beads, that's what's got you to this point. But now it's time for you to move beyond that. And the way that you eliminate these kinds of things from your practice is it's best to do it slowly and gradually. Because as you guys heard, the mind craves permanence. It doesn't like impermanence. So if you try to go cold turkey and getting rid of the music out of your meditation, your mind's not going to like that. It's going to kind of revolt. So you'd like to do it slowly to the point where your mind doesn't even realize what you're doing. So maybe like one session you use music, one session you don't. One session you use music, one session you don't. And you kind of do that for like a week or so and kind of get comfortable with that. Then you do one session with it, 2 or 3 without. One session with it, 2 or 3 without. And you do that for a week or so. And now your mind's gotten comfortable with that. And you do one session with it, 3, 4, 5, 6 without it, right? And you do it this way, gradually taking it out of your practice to the point where your mind doesn't even realize what you're doing and you get comfortable with it. You can do this with any unwholesome thing that you're trying to eliminate from your practice. Like say if I smoke cigarettes and I was trying to get rid of that, I wouldn't go cold turkey because it's not really a sustainable change, right? So what I would do if I smoked 20 cigarettes a day, I would go down to 18 and I would do that for like a week or two. Let the mind and the body get comfortable with that. Then go down to 15 for a week or two and let the mind and body get comfortable with that and slowly phase it out like this, where maybe one day you smoke a cigarette, the next day there's none. One day you smoke a cigarette, you just gradually expand it like that. And that's how you get rid of unwholesome things in your practice, because your mind's going to be holding on to these things and not wanting to let them go. And you can do the same thing if you're bringing something wholesome into your life. Like say you would like to switch to a plant-based food supply and maybe get rid of meat. You can do this slowly. You don't need to snap your fingers and instantly do it. You could kind of gradually phase it into your life, because you're going to need to find new recipes, new suppliers, things like this. Whether you choose to do those things or not, it's up to you. It's your choice. But this is a methodology of how you can slowly bring something wholesome into your life. Do it slowly. And it's the same way you can do to get unwholesome things out of your life, is do it slowly and gradually. It'll be a more sustainable change and your mind will really appreciate it. So do you guys have any questions on this?
Yes, I have a question. Just now you mentioned we better not set up an alarm clock when we do meditation. Then how do we know when to end our meditation?
You just meditate, and then just whenever you're done, you finish and you look at your time. So you look before you start, what time is it? And you look afterwards. So if you start at 9 a.m. and then when you're finished, it's 9:15, you know you meditated for 15 minutes. And then on your next session, just work to expand that and try to go a little bit longer.
And how to know it's time to end? When I lose my focus or when I feel uncomfortable? So
just whenever you like to finish, just finish.
Okay.
Yeah, just stay in the present moment and just finish whenever you're ready. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry. Meditation. Right. I tend to meditate with frequency music, and I tend to fall asleep, which is pretty good. But tell me more about meditation. When you're meditating, are you dreaming?
No, you're
not. Are you
not
traveling?
No, what you're doing is you're eliminating unwholesome qualities and cultivating wholesome qualities. And this is why by having music or candles or things like this in your meditation, you haven't actually let go. Because what you guys are going to see, what breathing mindfulness meditation does for you, is it helps you eliminate, I'm surprised it's not in here, there it is. It helps you eliminate the unwholesome quality of craving, desire, attachment. And it helps you to cultivate the wholesome qualities of mindfulness or awareness of mind and concentration. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to train your mind to let go. Let go, let go. But if your mind's holding on to the music and you're focused on the music, your mind hasn't actually let go. It's still attached to something. So you're trying to train your mind to let go. And you're not trying to fall asleep. That's not what your goal of meditation is. You would like your mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So you're training the mind actively to eliminate certain unwholesome qualities and cultivate certain wholesome qualities. And these are the ones that you're eliminating and cultivating. Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering of what your thoughts are on this thing that I started doing recently. Is more like that I do about like 5 to 6, sometimes 8 sessions of like 10 to 15 minutes. So I just set up that whenever I get to like my desk, when I'll most likely lose track of time, I will just basically, the first thing I do is set up an alarm for 2 hours from now. Mm-hmm. And then 2 hours later, whenever it pops up on the screen, I just like stop doing whatever I'm doing. I set up a timer for like 15 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever, and then I'll just meditate. And then it goes into, sometime it goes past 12, 15, whatever. It's whenever I'm ready to get out of it, I get out of it. And the alarm is like very subtle. It's just like a little beep. and then whenever I'm done, I will basically set another 2 hours, and then another 2 hours, another 2 hours. So I just keep doing that. And regardless of whatever I'm doing, I will just stop and I'll start meditating. So not all of them are great, but some are good, some are bad. Like some are just like not, you just can't focus. But it's helped me a lot. So I just wanted to know, like, do you see any problems or any thoughts on it?
Yeah, you're going to notice the most significant improvements when you get to that 30-minute mark in your meditation. So that's why you really only need 2 or 3 per day, because you're going to have other things in your day that you need to be doing. You're not going to always be able to do a meditation every 2 hours. It's just not going to be possible for you. So by having these anchor points of morning and evening, and then if you can get one in the middle of the day, that's great. That allows you to focus your day on the things that you need to focus on, because there's more in life than just meditation. You're going to need to build relationships. You're going to need to have a professional career and all these other things. You're not going to have time to do meditations every 2 hours. So you'll notice the most significant changes when you get to 30-minute mark. And if you do this 2 to 3 times a day, that's where the most benefit's going to be.
That's what I was doing before I started doing this, and I just realized that it was a lot easier for me to stick to the alarm that just like shows up in 2 hours, every 2 hours. And sometimes if I'm in the middle of something that I just can't stop, then I will just snooze it for like another 10 minutes. So if I know that I'm going to be only 10 minutes, and I'll like, it like gives you options of how long you want to snooze for.
Yeah.
And
when you say easy, that means the mind is challenged when it's doing this other thing. And that's what the mind doesn't want, because it wants to stay complacent. But by the time you get to enlightenment, nothing is a challenge. Nothing's difficult. Everything is at ease. So whenever your mind is trying to do something and it's like, oh, that's too tough, I'm going to do this thing that's easy, that's just because it's lacking wisdom and it hasn't developed the ability to do that particular thing. So you're not going to solve your getting to enlightenment by just taking this easy route of setting up an alarm every 2 hours. You would like to get to the point where you're meditating for 30 minutes or more. Sure, 10 minutes is super easy. Anybody can do 10 minutes of meditation, but you would like to get to this 30-minute mark. That's where the real change is happening. And if you'd like to stick with easy, you can, but it's not going to get you to enlightenment, because easy isn't allowing the mind to be challenged and tested so that it can move beyond whatever it sees to be easy. You would like to get to the point where the 30 minutes is just as easy for you as the 10 minutes. Right now, if 10 minutes is easy for you, great. But now you need to get it to the point where the 30 minutes is easy too. And that's where your mind is experiencing the growth and the development. But if you don't ever challenge the mind that way, you won't be able to get to that point.
Sorry, so just to clarify, what I meant by easy was basically that it's easier for me to keep track of, as opposed to the 3 that I used to do before. I mean, in the morning, I still do like an hour and a half. And in the night, it's about like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But during the day, there's another bunch of 10-minute, 15-minute ones, which usually last longer than the timer I've set it for. So I didn't mean easy, that it's easier for me to focus for 10 minutes as opposed to 30 minutes. It's just easier for me to be consistent with them.
I see. Yeah, all you need is 2 or 3 per day for 30 minutes or more. That's really all you need. And the 30-minute mark is plenty. You really don't have to go more, but some people like to go more, because as a household practitioner, you're going to have other things that you need to do besides meditation. If you're sprinkling meditation into your life that much, that means you're not really able to focus on all the other things like relationships and a job and professional development and all these other things. So that's where getting to enlightenment is more than just meditation. Meditation is a part of it, but it's not everything. And sometimes people put so much emphasis on meditation, they're not focusing on all those other factors. If you do the math with the Eightfold Path, each one of those factors is 12.5%, right? And within each one of those factors, there's individual aspects. So meditation is part of right concentration, and there's 2 aspects of that. So that means meditation is 6.25% of the path to enlightenment, where oftentimes people put so much emphasis on it. Because even though someone can't do this, let's just say they meditated for 23 hours a day, and they went outside and they were bitter and harsh and hostile using wrong speech for an hour a day. they're not anywhere near enlightenment, even though they're meditating for 23 hours a day. So there's more than just meditation that you need. What meditation is doing is it's helping you build these qualities of mind so that then you can go out into the world and you can practice using these qualities. So all that stuff in the middle of your day that you're talking about, a meditation every 2 hours, I would say that's too excessive. That's too obsessive, holding on to meditation. Just do your 2 or 3 per day. That's what I would recommend. And then go out into the world and practice with those qualities of mind where you're interacting with people in loving and kind and warm and harmonious ways, because that's what's going to produce a successful life for yourself.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other people?
Okay, yeah, I have a question. So I think for me it's a little bit difficult to go into the meditation because the things going on in my mind from time to time when although I'm close my eyes. So can you share what is the status when you are in deep meditation?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of status it is?
Yeah, what you'll experience when you're in deep meditation is the mind will be quieted and it'll be still. I'm about to talk about this here in a moment, that the ultimate goal of this meditation is not to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the case based on the guidance and the directions they're getting during the meditation, but even an enlightened being has thoughts during meditation. But the difference is that an unenlightened being, they're going to experience a bombardment of thoughts. When you close your eyes, it might be like thought. You might just have these rapid thoughts coming. Or you might have a thought and you indulge in that thought, you follow it for a little while, you play with it for a little while, and then like 2 or 3 minutes down the road, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. So this is what an unenlightened mind experiences. But an enlightened being, they still experience thoughts during meditation, but they notice it right away and they cut it off and let it go. So the goal is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. And what you're going to notice is you have these periods of time, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, where the mind is quieted and stilled. And it's almost like you're standing on the head of a needle, that the mind is so still and so quiet internally within the mind. That's the ultimate goal.
Okay. One more question is about if there's in some special situation, maybe you think, okay, you can do the meditation to help you. For example, when maybe in your workplace you feel very stressful, a lot of things going on in your mind, maybe you think, oh, maybe I can do a meditation, can help him to calm down or something. Is this one of the situations you can use the meditation?
Yeah, absolutely. Some workplaces nowadays have meditation rooms or prayer rooms, or one company I used to work at, they had nursing rooms for women to pump their breast milk, and they were okay with people going in there to meditate. So I used to go into there to meditate sometimes, or sometimes the place didn't have that. I would go into the toilet. I would just sit on the toilet with my pants on, and I would just meditate sitting on the toilet, because nobody will come in there to, hey, what are you doing in here? It's like they'll just leave you alone. So yeah, you can meditate in the workplace. This would be great for you, especially if you're going into like a big business meeting that's going to be very impactful and very important. You could do some meditation before the meeting, or just make it part of your normal day, that somewhere in the middle of the day you're meditating. That would be very helpful for you. You're welcome.
I would like to know about these trauma trapped in the body, because I come from the Vipassana, from Goenka, and you have to be there still for 1 hour, 3 times a day, and it's painful. And what you said is, for me, it makes more sense that you move, and then, but what they want you to experience is to release all these, fascia tension and all these, trauma trapped there.
Okay, so there is no trauma in the body. This is like a very big misunderstanding. Even in the massage world, people have this misunderstanding that they think that trauma is inside the body. What trauma is where individual has had some kind of experience in life, like let's just say physical abuse. They've had physical abuse, and now 5 years later, we might say this person has been traumatized, right? All that's really happening here is this individual is holding on to that experience inside their mind, and now they're forming feelings based on a situation that happened 5 years ago. And now they're experiencing painful feelings within the mind in the present moment based on something that happened 5 years ago. This is just the mind clinging to an experience and now forming feelings in the present moment based on something that's happened in the past. There isn't anything stored in the body that's causing that. It's all within the mind. So training the mind to let go, to let go, to let go, that's what's going to help you to do that, because as that painful feeling is coming up, when you're remembering about that physical abuse in the past, you can cut it off and let it go. So if you use your right mindfulness to be aware of the mind, when you notice that painful feeling starting to arise as a bodily sensation, you cut it off, applying right effort, and eventually you'll get to the point where you don't experience that anymore, where you've completely let that go. Where sometimes people think trauma is like lifelong. They're like, I'll never get rid of this trauma. It's not actually true. It's impermanent. It's just that the mind is holding on to it. So you can let go of trauma. The mind can let go of trauma. It's not stored in the body. It's all in the mind. And then in terms of like meditating 3 times a day for 1 hour, this is impossible for a household practitioner typically, because we have too many responsibilities. We have too many things going on in our day-to-day life. And you actually don't need 1 hour of massage or meditation. I can probably count on one hand, maybe 2 hands, how many times I've ever meditated for an hour or more, right? Throughout my entire life and where I am today with what I'm experiencing in my mind, I've maybe meditated 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 times an hour or more. It's been 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. That's like the sweet spot for, especially for a household practitioner, but even for an ordained practitioner, they wouldn't need anything more than that, because our lives have other things that we need to do. Like if I went into a cave and I sat there and meditated all day long, and maybe 5 years later, I felt like, oh, I'm enlightened. You're not enlightened yet, because you haven't gone out to the city. You haven't heard the horns honking. You haven't been around people to see if your mind is actually peaceful and joyful. So sometimes people can work themselves into a bubble thinking that they're actually pretty awake or enlightened, but they haven't actually been around people and experienced things. So you're going to need to go out into the world and practice the teachings of keeping your mind peaceful and joyful, no matter what situation you're in. So sometimes people think like the Buddha, you heard the story yesterday, the Buddha going into the forest and training his mind in the forest. They think like he was in there for like 5 years or 4 years, and he never came outside of the forest. But this isn't true. He actually came in contact with people every single day, because the way that he taught is that he used to get food. He used to get donations of food from people. So sometimes people think he must have went away for 4 years, never had any human interaction, and then he got to enlightenment that way. This isn't actually true, that every single day he was interacting with people because he had to in order to get donations of food. So the idea of meditating an hour 3 times a day is just too much and too extensive. And oftentimes in these kinds of retreats, they also teach you to stay quiet the entire time, like silence. That's not possible either. You're going to need to communicate in day-to-day life. They often sometimes teach you to if you experience pain, just breathe through the pain. The Buddha showed us in his life that hanging himself upside down from trees, piercing his body, starving his body, none of this led to enlightenment. So causing physical pain to the body is unwise, because if your knee is hurting during meditation, that's the body saying to the boss, that's the employee saying to the boss, hey, make some changes here. There's something that hurts. So just breathing through it would be unwise, because you could be causing damage to the knee. So when people are teaching you these things, you need to be able to see the truth that this isn't actually true. And anybody who's teaching those kinds of things, I can say that they're not yet enlightened, because an enlightened being wouldn't just breathe through the pain, because they would know that that's unwise to treat this body in that way, that we need to care for this body and take care of it. Even though this isn't me, this isn't who I am, I'm going to be inhabiting this body. This mind is going to be inhabiting this body for the rest of his life. So it's wise to take care of it. So these are things that you can learn in your journey, and then you choose what you think is best. And as you heard, you just said that what I'm sharing with you makes sense. So if that makes sense for you, then practice that and you'll see that it works. Because if it worked for me, it'll work for you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, yes, sir.
Different types of meditation. What's the Buddha? Does he say anything about the Kundalini or the middle eye?
No,
The third eye?
he didn't teach any of those things.
So where did these things come from?
I don't know. We'd have to look into history and see. They don't involve what the Buddha taught to get to enlightenment.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. So continuing on, this is kind of the getting ready and getting started with your meditation. Let me share some things from the Buddha so you can see what he's teaching on this important topic. So these are his words where he's introducing the 4 types of meditation that he taught. Because right now there's probably thousands of meditations in the world, and you don't need to learn all those meditations. There's only 2 meditations that everybody would need to learn in order to get to enlightenment, and that's breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. And then there's 2 specialized meditations that you only need in a case-by-case basis. Not everybody needs those 2 specialized meditations. And the beauty in this is that by just focusing on 2 meditations, you can get really deep down into those meditations and learn how to do them. You can really master them. Whereas if you had to learn like 50 or 100 different meditations, you wouldn't be able to learn them very deeply. So here the Buddha is teaching his students the 4 meditations, or at least he's introducing the 4 meditations. He was talking before this about 5 things that you needed to practice in order to get to enlightenment. And then he said, having based himself on these 5 things, meaning the 5 things he was talking about previously, the monk should develop further another 4 things. The perception of unattractiveness of the body should be developed to abandon lust. This is a meditation to eliminate sexual craving. If you have like really strong sexual craving and you would like to reduce that or eliminate it, there's a meditation for that. So sometimes people talk to me privately. They say, hey, I've got 5 girlfriends. I'd like to just have one, but I got these strong cravings. Or maybe they have a pornography addiction, or they're addicted to masturbation or something like that. They might talk to me and I help them to learn this. It's in volume 1, chapter 11. It's no secret. You can see what it is. But if you need help with it, you can always talk to me. And I do teach it in some of the retreats that I share. Then he says, loving kindness should be developed to abandon ill will. This is a meditation to eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will in the mind. And I teach that in the Harmony of Relationships course and in some of the other courses and retreats as well. Then mindfulness of breathing, or breathing mindfulness meditation, should be developed to cut off thoughts. That's what you're learning in this course. Is your goal is to cut off and let go. Your goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts, but your goal is to be able to notice them sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. Because now in day-to-day life, when you're noticing your anger arising, you can cut it off and let it go if you've been training your mind that way. But if you haven't been training your mind that way, you won't be able to do that. So if you're at work and you feel like you want to punch your boss in the face and you're noticing that urge come up, let me cut that off, right? That's not going to produce anything beneficial. So you'll be able to do that if you're training your mind this way. Then the perception of impermanence should be developed to eradicate the conceit, I am. When one perceives impermanence, the perception of non-self is stabilized. One who perceives non-self eradicates the conceit, I am, which is nibbana, or enlightenment, in this very life. So this is a meditation to realize non-self. Okay, this is that thing that we were talking about this morning with the 3 universal truths. You need to realize non-self. You need to strip away the mind holding on to this body and this mind. And there's a meditation to help you with that. But normally you're starting off with this one. You're starting off with breathing mindfulness meditation. That's what you'd like to establish first. Then you work with the loving kindness meditation. And you'll see how this all fits in tomorrow when we talk about the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots. So here, you guys have already seen this. I'm showing you the unwholesome quality that you're eliminating and the wholesome qualities that you're cultivating for each individual meditation. But since we're just focused on this one for this course, this is what I'd like to be sure you understand. That what you're training the mind to do is let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment, you can't let go. If you think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you had when you guys broke up, You were probably angry or frustrated. You were lonely or bored. You were missing that person. But at some point, you let go. And when your mind let go, you felt so much better when your mind let go. But the mind in the unenlightened state doesn't know how to let go. So that's why you're training it in meditation. Every time the mind moves off the breath, you let go, let go, let go. So if 10, 15, 20 times during your meditation, you have to let go, this is very good for the mind. And eventually, your mind will get really good at this and it won't ever grab on. So in day-to-day life, where you see your mind with your mindfulness, where you see it pulling and longing and yearning, you know to let go, right? You go to the store and you see those brand new shoes and you're like, oh my gosh, I want those shoes so bad, right? Oh, I want them so bad. And you're like, hold on a second. I got 30 pairs of shoes at home. Why do I need one more pair of shoes? Right? You're looking at your wife. Does she like shoes? I used to have a shoe thing when I was earlier in my life. Now I only have one or two pairs of shoes, but at one time I used to have 30, 40, 50 pairs of shoes, right? So when you see your mind longing, yearning, and you're craving, and your mind's trying to grab onto something, you can let go. And you're like, no, I don't need a new pair of shoes. The mind wants a new pair of shoes, but I don't need it, right? And this is the benefit of training your mind with breathing mindfulness meditation. Because it's very expensive to have craving, desire, attachment. You'll sometimes go into debt if you keep chasing your craving, desire, attachment. Okay, so here's some more from the Buddha on meditation. He says, a pot without a stand is easy to tip over. A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. The pot is the mind. The stand is your meditation practice. A mind without a meditation practice is easy to become discontent. That's what he's essentially saying. As you meditate, you're creating a wider and wider stand where it's harder and harder to tip over your mind. Your mind becomes more and more stable. So the pot without a stand is easy to tip over. A mind without a meditation practice, it's easy to become angry. It's easy to become frustrated because you don't have a meditation practice. Here's some words from the Buddha where he's talking about the importance of breathing mindfulness meditation and kind of the goal of it. He says, monks, there is one thing that when developed and cultivated leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. What is that one thing? Mindfulness of breathing, breathing mindfulness meditation. This is that one thing that, when developed and cultivated, leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. So what he's saying is that there's just one goal for this meditation. It's to get to enlightenment. Is to get to this peace and this joy. That's the goal of this meditation. He's not saying you only need one thing to get to enlightenment. Otherwise, he would have just taught meditation and that's it. But we have 45 volumes of books that are this thick. And that's not even all of his teachings. That's just what we have left after 2,500 years, right? So if it was only meditation that you needed to get to enlightenment, he would have just taught that. It's kind of like your car. It leads to one thing, which is transportation. That's what it leads to. Your car leads to transportation. But you need more than just transportation in order to live a wonderful life. So he's saying this meditation, it leads to one thing. It has one goal in mind, which is to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state, which is enlightenment. So in terms of conducting your meditation session for breathing mindfulness meditation, you would like to focus on the breath, which is the sound coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin. That's your focal point. That's your anchor. And now anytime your mind moves off of that, you cut that off, let it go, and bring the mind back to the breath. The Buddha describes this in his teachings like a post or a pillar. And he describes these animals that are tied to the post and pillar. And the bird is flying this way, the alligator is going that way, the snake is going this way, and they're all pulling. But when they get to the end of the rope, they get yanked back. And they get yanked back and yanked back. Every time they pull, they get yanked back to the post or pillar. And eventually, they pull so much and they keep getting yanked back that they just sit down and be calm by the post or pillar. They stop pulling. And your mind is the same way. it's going to pull and pull and pull and pull and pull. And as your mind is pulling, you keep yanking it back and yanking it back and yanking it back. And as you do, over a consistent long-term period, your mind's going to eventually just sit down and be calm, that it's not going to keep pulling like that. And what you need to be able to do is focus on the breath. And anytime you see your mind pulling off the breath, it's moving off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and bring the mind back to the breath. Okay? So the goal of this meditation is not to eliminate your thoughts, it's to notice them sooner and sooner and let them go easier and easier. That's the ultimate goal. There's going to be periods of time in the middle where it's quiet and still, but that's going to take some time to build up to. You might notice this bombardment of thoughts. You might notice that your mind indulges in thoughts and kind of follows it for a period of time, but eventually your mind's going to be calm and still, and it's going to sit down just like those wild animals. Okay? So any questions on any of this? Your mic's still on.
Is that the ultimate goal? Your brain just calm? Your mind is calm?
Yeah, your mind's calm and peaceful. You don't have any anger. You don't have any frustration, not just during meditation, but in your day-to-day life too. Your mind will be focused, concentrated. Your relationships will all be harmonious. You won't have difficulties and struggles in making decisions. You won't have stress and anxiety. Everything in your life will be at ease because you've worked to cultivate wisdom, and now you understand the world you live in. You understand these natural laws, and you can navigate the world easily and with peace. Where right now, there are certain struggles and difficulties that you have because you don't have full wisdom of these natural laws. So you make unwise decisions in some situations without even realizing it. Mm-hmm. You have a question, Hugo? Would you mind turning off your mic? It's just the little button. Yep. Hugo. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I had a mentor. He was a psychologist, and he said, whenever you sleep, meditate.
What's that?
Whenever one can't sleep, meditate. Your thoughts on that?
Whenever you can't sleep, I didn't hear the last part. Meditate when you can't sleep. Is that what you said? Yeah. Okay. So these 2 or 3 sessions per day that I describe, if you do those, you will sleep well, right? You'll be really easy to get to sleep. But if you can't sleep and you're having difficulties falling asleep, because now to enlightenment, you might have some difficulties here and there falling asleep. There's no harm laying in bed, focusing on your breath and cutting off and letting go of any thoughts that come up. That's going to really help you. But don't consider that one of your 2 or 3 meditations per day, because you need those anchor points. While you're falling asleep at night, if you have any difficulty sleeping, focus on the breath. And anytime your mind moves off the breath, cut it off and let it go. That will help you to sleep for sure. But just make sure you have your 2 or 3 sessions that are dedicated sessions.
Second part of the question. When my mind goes away from my breathing, sometimes it happens in a split of a second. And by the time I wanted to cut it off and let it go, I'm already back on my breathing.
Okay.
Any thoughts on that?
So that means you have let it go then. If your mind is back on the breathing, that you've already let it go then.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So I'll just share this with you. These are words of the Buddha. He says, meditate, monks. Do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. This is like the only thing you'll ever get from the Buddha where he's like, okay, you should go meditate. You should go do something, right? He's never going to push you. He's never going to try to force you. He's never going to put his expectations on you. He's not trying to convince you or guilt, shame, or fear you into anything. But instead, he's just letting you know, like, hey, if you don't meditate, you're going to regret it later. When you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're irritated, annoyed, when you're feeling lonely and bored, you're going to regret having not meditated. So that's why he teaches this to you. One time my son came to me in the middle of the night. It was like midnight or 1 a.m. and I had been talking to him about meditating and suggesting to him that he meditates. And he came to me and was like, Dad, I can't sleep. I can't sleep. And I said, yeah, what's going on? He said, they showed a scary movie at school today and I can't get it out of my mind. And I was like, see, just like the Buddha said, you're going to regret it later when you don't meditate. You haven't been meditating and now you're regretting it later because you can't sleep. And then I said, just focus on your breath, do a little meditation, you'll be able to fall asleep. So he was able to fall asleep. But you will regret later if you don't meditate. So the Buddha is teaching you, don't be complacent. Be sure you do the work each day to meditate. What I share with you is don't ever give up. Because giving up on your meditation practice is like resigning yourself to being angry and upset and stressed and having anxiety the rest of your life. It's just like, I'm giving up on meditation. I'm just going to be angry the rest of my life. So you might go through periods of time where you're kind of stepping away or doing things like this. There was a period of time where I didn't meditate for 3 years. It was the worst 3 years of my life, I could say. But ultimately, I never gave up. I got back into meditation. So it's important just to never give up on your meditation, because that's basically like saying you're just going to be angry for the rest of your life and you're resigning yourself to that. So just keep working at it. Keep working at it. Don't put pressure on yourself. You're not in a race with anybody. It's your own independent practice. You're not in a competition with anybody at all. You're right where you need to be, and just keep growing each day to meditate and expand your practice more and more and more. It's going to take you maybe 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to 2 or 3 sessions for 30 minutes or more. But just do it gradually at your own pace. And I'm here to help you if you ever need any help. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just invite you guys for meditation. We have about 15 minutes before it's 3 o'clock. If you guys would like to meditate, you're more than welcome. If you need to leave, you're always more than welcome to leave too. People can come and go. But if you'd like to meditate, I'm going to do some chanting to ease into the meditation, but I'm not going to give you any guidance today. Your guidance from your teacher is impermanent, right? You're not going to permanently get guidance in meditation. So now that you guys have been meditating a little bit, focus on the breath. And anytime the mind moves off the breath, cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. I'm just going to do the chanting on the way in. I'm going to do meditation, and then I'm going to do chanting on the way out. But you do your own meditation, because you're going to need that eventually, because I'm not going to be here on Saturday or Sunday or I will be here Saturday, Sunday, but maybe next week when you're trying to meditate, I'm not going to be around. You're going to need to do it by yourself. So this is an opportunity for you to do that. Okay? So if you'd like to join with the chanting, you're more than welcome. And then you're on your own for meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Bhutang Mahakewanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho วิจาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Oto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Okay, any questions you guys would like to ask about meditation? No? Okay. Well, tomorrow we're going to start things off with chanting meditation like we do each day, that you guys will be able to slowly build your practice up throughout the week. Then I'm going to teach you guys the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots, the 3 fires. This is where you're going to broaden your understanding and deepen your understanding of what's going on in the unenlightened mind. Then we're going to take our mid-morning break, and I'm going to teach you the 5 precepts. This is going to plug into the Eightfold Path, giving you more details on the Eightfold Path. Then we're going to take our lunch break, and then when we come back, I'm going to teach you walking meditation. So that's our plan for tomorrow. Okay? So have a lovely evening, and perhaps we'll see you guys tomorrow. Sawadee Kap.